Hi friends, Ryan here with Ryan's Candles and Crafts, and welcome to the next chapter of Jojo's story. Last time, Jojo and Mojo left the lanterns at Dune's Peak behind and found a steady rhythm in an open country. The golden bubble guiding, the Sunrise Brew warm against Jojo's side, and conversation turning the road into something kinder. Today, the trail draws them into the Hollow Perch, a forest so dense our travelers rethink their decision on the lantern they left behind. Before we get into the next chapter, go ahead and click on that subscribe button and that notification bell to get notified when we upload videos. And don't forget to leave a like and a comment down below. You can also check in the description down below. We are now an affiliate of the Diamond Art Club, so click on that link as a first-time buyer, and you help out the channel when you buy with that link. Let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 8. The Hollow Perch. The road narrowed until it was no more than body width wide and damp earth. Ahead, trees grew shouldered together so tightly that the sky turned dark green at the ceiling. The air cooled with each step, taking on the feeling of a cool fall day. Golden Bubble drifted into the gloom and dimmed. Not in distress, but in acknowledgement. This was a place where light should speak softly. Jojo adjusted the strap on his satchel. The cup inside answered with a quiet heat that pressed against the fabric into his bones. "Stay close," he said, surprised at how steady his voice was. "In here, we listen more than we look." He moved forward. It wasn't instinct so much as remembered practice. Cliffside couriers had a way of learning the world in small pieces. How the damp ground gives a different sound under the claw than dry. How a hollow, being dark, reminded him of a cold, dark street of cliffside during the cooler months. How a breeze carries the smell of water or bark. Jojo set his weight carefully, testing, then placed each foot. The bubble hovered low at shoulder height. Mojo fell in behind, quiet as he could make himself, the dancer's grace turning into a traveler's discipline. The path disappeared and reappeared under their feet as if it were shy. They paid close attention to the world around them. A little drip from somewhere to the left meant a slow trickle of water over rock. A loose scatter of twigs to the right meant recent passage. A bird, perhaps, or something heavier since the twigs were thicker. Farther in, the wind spread and wandered through the hollow and hummed around a trunk like a bottle's rim. Then Jojo heard it. A soft, padded step where no twigs snapped. A hush of breath too steady for a bird. A scrape of claw against bark too heavy for a raccoon. The hairs on his neck lifted. He paused and lifted a wing. Mojo stopped immediately. The forest held its breath with them. "There," Jojo said as he pointed to the right. Two amber glints between ferns, low to the ground and too far apart to be anything friendly. They blinked once, then slid back a breath and vanished. Jojo didn't move. Neither did the gaze. The smell arrived a moment later, drier than a wet dog, smoky, edged with iron. "Coyote," Jojo whispered, not turning his head. "On our right. Patient." Mojo's voice, when it came, was low. "Do we run?" "No," Jojo said. "We move slow and quiet as possible. I can hear him better if we're slow." He pointed his beak toward a corridor of roots that curled above the ground like rib bones. "Step where I step. No talking unless I stop. If you hear your feet, make them quieter." They began again, Jojo in front, Mojo precisely echoing his cadence. Jojo let his ears lead more than his eyes. Left foot down where the ground was spongy but not sinking. Right foot on a dry island between the moist areas. A low huff folded out the dark behind them. Not close, not far. The coyote was not in a rush. It would wait for a misstep and a stumble. And then, an ankle twisted in roots, a spin on sliced bark, a panic turned clever birds into easy food. Jojo felt fear. He reached for the strap across his chest and took his hands firmly. "Count," he told himself silently. "1 place, 2 pause, 3 breathe." It worked. the way Mojo said fear could be used if given a job. Mojo's eyes were wide. The two looked at one another, and with a heavy, low sigh, they pressed on. The path took them to the edge of a shallow ravine. A fallen trunk bridged it, a wide, moss-slicked log with bark that had peeled in places to show pale wood beneath. On the far side, ferns made a dark gate. Beneath the log, water rushed through stone with a quiet whisper. Jojo tested the trunk with his weight. It gave a little, then held. The coyote would be lighter on padded feet than they were, but it would not trust the slick trunk in the same way. Coyotes preferred dry, grippable areas. "We cross," Jojo said. "Nice and slow." Mojo nodded. "Your lead." Jojo stepped onto the log. It shivered. He waited until its tremble found its stopping place, then moved again. Small, soft steps. The satchel rose still against him. He felt the world narrow to the log, the breath, the next place his claws would go. Halfway across, the bark crackled under his foot. A dry, brittle snap that sounded louder than it was. The log flexed. Moisture slicked under his claw. Behind him, Mojo's breath hitched. "Stop," Jojo said, calm. "Hips low, wings up." He shifted his weight and found pale wood beneath and set his foot on it. The log steadied. He didn't look down into the water. He didn't look back. He moved forward, small and certain. A few steps later, he stepped out onto the far bank and then turned, feet braced, and gestured a wing to wave Mojo along. Mojo then continued to cross. When the bark sighed under his foot, he froze, exhaled, and copied Jojo's slow reset exactly. A minute later, he stepped onto the bank beside Jojo and didn't speak. The look on his face said his gratitude. A rustle on the far side drew their eyes. The coyote had reached the log and placed one foot upon it. The trunk rolled a fraction. The coyote withdrew and circled, calculating, then tried again. It rose to the log's top, balanced and crept. Halfway across, the trunk rolled slightly under its weight. The coyote's shoulder dipped. It paused, lips curled back to show a long, quiet, thin line of teeth. It stepped again and slid, barely catching itself from falling off. That was enough. Survival instinct took over the need to feed. The coyote backed off the log with caution, shook once, and then disappeared into the ferns. "It will look for another way," Jojo said. "We don't want to be around for it to catch us." They turned and moved, a quicker pace now to put some distance between them and the coyote. The forest pressed closer. Branches arched overhead, their interlaced weaves turning day to a green gloom again. The ground tilted upward, then settled. Jojo began to hear a different sound, an airy rasp like brooms dragging lightly across stones. Thorns, probably, rubbed together by the wind. The rasp grew louder, the tunnel darker. A thicket of hawthorn and blackberry, and knit together into a living corridor just wide enough for thin bodies to slip through. Jojo crouched to peer in. The tunnel was twisted round and round like a curly ribbon, just enough room to squeeze through. "Single file," he whispered. "Wings close. If a branch catches you, don't panic. Just ease out of it the opposite way you got to it. You will be fine." A soft pad, closer now, threaded through the gloom behind them. The coyote had found the ravine's far end and looped around. It stood somewhere just out of sight, waiting for their next move in hopes in its favor. Jojo picked up a small stone with his toes, leaned just enough to toss it to a dry patch of leaves to their left, far from the tunnel mouth. It landed with a delicate tsk. Leaves rustled with a whisper. The coyote's eyes flickered toward the sound. "Go," Jojo breathed. He slid into the thorn tunnel, folding himself real small. Thorns brushed his feathers and tugged lightly at the satchel, but he moved slow and steady, unhooking patiently whenever a barb on meeting him. Behind him, Mojo followed in perfect time, body long and slim as a ribbon. Halfway, the thorn roof dipped and narrowed. A cane snagged the satchel strap and clung to. Jojo stopped and breathed. Panic would turn a gentle catch into a tear. He eased his shoulder forward, dropped his elbow, rolled the strap against the thorn rather than pulling it, and then the hook let go. He moved again. Somewhere outside, leaves scuffled, paws paced. A low snarl tried on the tunnel mouth and yelped. It tried to taste the thorns. The sound retreated, then resumed in a slow, patient circle. The coyote would wait. The tunnel turned sharply, then opened onto a pocket of space at the base of a tree so old you can see it in the trunk and roots. Roots arched high and divided into soil. Great ribs turned into wood. Between two of them, a root hollow lay dry and snug, just deep enough for two birds to sit shoulder to shoulder and still be invisible from most angles. Jojo guided Mojo into the hollow and sat down, his back pressed against the inner curve. The golden bubble slipped in after them and tucked itself under a web of thin roots, low and calm. For a while, they didn't speak. Their breath found a sharp pace. The forest was quiet as could be. The coyote's steps came and went at a respectful distance. After a while, Mojo broke the silence with a whisper. "You lead like it was just yesterday you took the same journey. How is that possible when you've never been here before?" Jojo shrugged one shoulder. "We had a lot of dark mornings at Cliffside. The old couriers like to say the world is your room you learn by touch." He touched the satchel. "And the door out is always forward." Mojo's gaze had been drawn again and again to the satchel. In darkness it seemed to glow from within, not bright, just alive. "How?" he asked softer still. "Is it still warm? Days now, and it hasn't cooled." Jojo rested his palm on the lid, and the warmth pressed back. "Miss Brindle says the beans catch dawn if you pick them at the exact moment the light touches them. Sunrise gets braided into the roast, and the brew remembers the hour it was made." He didn't usually tell the rest. It sounded like a story you tell chicks to keep them from asking why. But here, while patiently waiting the predator counting the dark outside, it felt like a truth you bring forward to keep company. "The heat is tied to the drinker. It holds until the cup reaches the one who needs it. It's not just temperature, it's spirit. And while you carry it, some of the steadiness leaks into the hand that holds it. Not enough to make you fearless. That would be a dangerous drink. But just enough to keep your feet honest when your head wants to run." Mojo listened the way he listened to the rhythm of music when he's about to dance. "So it keeps itself for the one it's meant for. And the courier too." Jojo nodded. "A little. Not by magic that does the work for you, but like a hand on your back when you need to keep moving." Mojo's eyes warmed. "And that's why you don't fly," he said quietly, coming to that realization. "You won't risk a spill. The ground is your partner that keeps the cup safe." "Yes," Jojo said simply. "I'll fly when the cup lands." Mojo considered that, and then smiled. Not his stage smile, his "yes, I see you" smile. "Tonight," he said, "you were stronger than one. I'm grateful." The bubble pulsed once, as if it approved of the conversation and realization that the two of them were having with one another. Outside, the coyote paced again, footsteps a little further than before. Suddenly, a flash of lightning and a quick roar of thunder. Rain. It began to curl itself in the canopy, first a whisper, then a steady patter of water reintroducing itself to the leaves. It softened the forest's edges. The smell of water was relaxing. The coyote's nose would less be certain now. It huffed once, annoyed perhaps, and then wandered off to a drier area. "Good. Rain," Jojo murmured. "It will wash out our scent from the path." Mojo leaned his head back against the root and closed his eyes. "And make the world sound like sleep," he said, already half there. They dozed in turns. lulled by the rattle of raindrops. When Jojo woke in the thin hour before dawn, the rain had gentled to more than just about a mist in the air. The forest no longer felt like a room. It felt like a hospitable kitchen after a storm, where someone had set a kettle on for tea. "We'll leave when the gray sky brightens," Jojo said quietly. "There's a ridge track to the east. Clear sightlines. The bubble wants us there." As if called, the golden light brightened a fraction and drifted to the hollow's edge, ready without urging. Mojo sat up, combed water out of his feathers with practiced sweeps, and smiled at Jojo in the doorway. "Lead on, courier." Jojo peered into the ferns. The coyote had left a few dark prints that filled with rainwater and faded as he watched. He waited for a breath, then two. He rose, eased through the thorns without catching, and stepped onto the damp path beyond. They retraced along their own quiet logic, away from the ravine and its tricky log, across packed earth that didn't want to tell tales to predators. The bubble stayed just ahead, a small lantern with excellent manners. It brightened by degrees as the canopy thinned. The green light shifted toward true morning. When the first strip of open sky appeared between trunks, Mojo let out a breath that sounded like a laugh turned inside out. "I've never been so happy to see a boring piece of gray sky." Jojo smiled. They stepped out of the trees onto a low shoulder of land where the world opened up its windows. Below, the forest rolled away in long waves. Beyond that, hills made softer shapes. Far beyond, the sea climbed back into view, turning dawn into a silver worth walking toward. The air smelled clean, washed from the night's rain. Jojo set his feet on the ridge and felt the old confidence return. Not the bravery of shows and spotlights, but the confidence of work you know how to do. The cup pressed warmth into his side. The bubble cast a clean little circle on the ground ahead. Mojo fell in beside him and matched his pace. Not leading, not pushing, content to let Jojo's knowing carry them out of danger and into day. After a while he said, "If ever anyone asks me what courage looks like, I'll say it looks like a bird who counts to 3 and walks forward in the dark." Jojo didn't trust himself to answer without turning that into a joke, so he gave the smallest nod and a smile. It was enough. And as the hollow perch lay down behind them like a lesson finished, Jojo realized his feet had not once asked to turn back. It wasn't that fear had left him. It was that fear had been given something useful to do. The sun opened up behind the clouds and down the road. They walked together. And that, friends, is the end of this chapter. So don't forget to go ahead and click on that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to get notified when we upload videos. This one was a little bit longer than probably what was intended, but a good part of the story. Let me know in the comments down below on what you think. Until next time, light a candle, pour a coffee, and let's get crafting.